Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to College Football UK. It's been a couple of weeks, but that's just because life's been busy for all of us. Life's been very busy for Nick, who was missing a couple of weeks ago as he was jetting around the United States of America, living life large. How are you, sir? How was your trip?
My trip was lovely, thank you. I'm good. I figured you guys had had a few weeks off because I wasn't there, and I'm the ever-present, mainstay rock of the group. If I go on holiday, the
The
pod's
whole
got to
world
stop.
falls apart. All falls apart
Yeah,
without you, mate. That's
I
what it
just
is.
assumed that was how it went, but fair
Yeah,
enough. No, I had
I
a
mean, you
great
could have you
time.
could have led with that. You could have led with that, Fletch. That could have
Yeah,
been how you opened it.
yeah,
I had a great time. It was nice to um, relax and um, yeah, enjoy myself.
yeah. Well, we all know how Nick's ego gets, and I just don't want to inflate it bigger, but it is true. Sam has been texting me every day saying, please, Fletch, let's record one episode of College Football UK. And I'm saying, no, if Nick's not here, I'm not doing it. Not anymore. Not again. Um, and if you
No
didn't,
Nick, no pod.
if you,
That's how it works now, is it?
exactly. So if you couldn't already tell, back with us after quite a while, since midway through the
It's a
season,
sabbatical. I took a sabbatical.
took a
Let's call it that.
sabbatical. It was a wise
Florida
time.
Much
State
like
were
much
taking a
like the Florida
sabbatical, so
States
he
took a
took.
sabbatical. Much like the team did, yeah.
But back for a new season is Gary. How are you, sir? Very good to
I'm
have you
good.
back.
Mate, I missed you guys. Apologies for the lack of access, but as mentioned, I moved house. Everything's been a bit crazy, but now we live out in the middle of nowhere, so all of these Wednesday interactions, all of those Wednesday distractions go away now. So it's all systems go.
You call them distractions to our face, but we all know that they're the things that just were priorities over us and were better than us. And now it's a bit like I don't have anything else to do, so I may as well talk to these
I
lads.
couldn't possibly deny. I can neither confirm nor deny your previous statement. I refer my right honourable gentleman to my previous answer.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm just letting you know that similar to yeah, we'll leave it there. Um,
God knows what the text messages in the group have been like without me. That's all I'm going to say.
very very tame, very tame.
Well,
Uh,
we'll liven that up.
And well, as we always like to do, just to get us started, I know Nick's got a couple of news pieces for us, and then I think today, gentlemen, just to get us all back into it, it's draft month, so just start
There's
talking
only
about
one. There's
draft.
only one thing to talk about really right now in
Ex
April, isn't there?
exactly. So, but Nick, do you want to take us away with some of these news pieces that you've got?
Indeed. Top news piece. Draft day is 2 weeks away. There you go.
Woohoo! There you go.
Um, so Stanford defensive end David Bailey has committed to Texas Tech. 111 tackles, 22 and a half tackles for loss, and 14 sacks, 14 and a half sacks in a 3-year career at Stanford. I've got a feeling it's something to do with the fact that Andrew Luck fired the head coach because no sooner did they fire Troy Taylor, he immediately left.
Hmm.
So he was obviously making his point. Um, on the same measure of player movement, um, ex-Missouri QB Drew Pine, he's headed for his fourth Division One school in 4 years. He's going to sign for Bowling Green in May when he's allowed to transfer. Uh,
Four
that
in four
means
years.
yes, he's played for Notre Dame, the mighty Notre Dame. He's played for Arizona State, and this last year he's played for Missouri. Next year he will play for Bowling Green. That's 4 and 4.
There seems to be a general direction of where he's transferring to, without maybe commenting too harshly on his playing style. It started here, and maybe
Quite possibly.
maybe he's found his level at Bowling Green, shall we say?
Oh well. BYU have landed four-star recruit Brock Harris. He's apparently the fourth best rated tight end in the class. and he turned down offers from Georgia, Miami, Oregon, and Fletch's Michigan. So he obviously decided that BYU was the place he wanted to go.
BYU being the new place for tight end university, it seems. There's a few of them coming out of there.
Well, there's that Harold Fanning who's in the draft, and he's looking pretty
He's
hot.
looking tasty too, yeah.
Nebraska wide receiver
Sorry,
Hardly
who was
Gilmore.
Who was
Harold
it?
Fanning Jr. I thought he was bowling.
Harold
Was it?
Fanning Jr.
I thought, do you know what? The mind hears what it wants to hear. We can move on.
Well, with
What did
yours,
you hear?
God, no, don't ask him, Nick. Whatever you do, don't ask him.
I've done it now.
Because
But the thing is,
that's something for off air.
Gary's response was just spot on. If it was, yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
Just gonna have to listen
I've
back
lost
now
my
and try and
place
work out.
now.
He's completely derailed you now, hasn't he?
Nebraska wide receiver Hardly Gilmore transferred from Kentucky
What's the
in
name?
January, and he has already been dismissed from the team.
Oh, he's made a good impression.
I know. Matt Rule said there's no reason, he's not going to give a reason why he's left. It's not for behaviour, and he hasn't done anything wrong. But I did notice that he got arrested in December. So, yeah, that's probably put two and two together. But I don't know whether he'll go back to Kentucky. He might possibly do so. Two legal bits of news for you, and then I will shut up and let somebody else talk. Claudia Wilton declined to give a final approval to the NIL deal we were talking about, the settlement. $2.8 billion in damages from the NCAA to settle all the payments to the ex players that have already left and what. She has declined to give an approval because she has asked both sides to address the short list of issues or concerns she has, and she's given both sides a week to do that. So I would expect we will probably get a ruling sort of sometime in the next 6 days regarding what she thinks. But it pretty sounds like they're all agreed. It's just sorting out the kinks that are in the system. And the only other bit of legal news I have is Northwestern are finalizing settlements with former athletes who filed hazing lawsuits.
Yeah.
23 and 24, I think the athletes attended. This is quite clever. By settling with the athletes now, the athletes can then become witnesses in the ongoing wrongful termination lawsuit filed by former head coach Pat Fitzgerald for the value of $130 million. So by settling with the athletes
paying the
can
cheaper
then
side.
the athletes can then be on Northwestern's side to say, yeah, well, he wasn't a very nice coach. So they're pulling a clever move there.
Paying Peter to rob Paul, as they say.
Something like that. And that is it. That's everything I've got.
okay.
Looking forward to the portal opening next week. I know you've mentioned the draft, but the portal opening could be a
Yes, the portal opens a week today and is open for 9 days. We'll close the Friday of draft week.
Yeah, but with the portal opening, the spring portal opening, that also comes with the only little bit of, I guess, news is that spring games are officially fully underway now in college football. There was some at the weekend trying to fight. I know that this is not everybody's priority in the world of college football in terms of full-on coverage, but even just trying to find like on FB schedules, they just don't list the ones that have already happened. Now they're gone and dead in the water. I know a few happened at the weekend. This weekend, on Friday night, GMT anyway, Georgia State have theirs. UCF practice 2, Army, Eastern Michigan, Florida Atlantic, Louisville, Nevada, Kansas, and Montana all have theirs. On Saturday, now there's a lot of them on Saturday coming up because this is proper spring game season now. There are a lot, so I'm going to try and pull out a few of just the bigger names out of them. LSU, Ohio State, South Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Pitt, Texas State, UTEP, WKU, James Madison, Delaware, Notre Dame have theirs. Um, on Saturday, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Western Michigan, the biggest name of the lot. I would just generally agree with you both there on that one. Vanderbilt, Virginia Tech, Alabama A&M, North Carolina, Rice, which I don't know why that I've managed to throw that one in there. Washington State, all happening on this weekend. Dayton are on Sunday. Next weekend, I know Michigan have theirs next Saturday. Yeah, Michigan have theirs next Saturday. UMass, Ohio, Houston. Yeah, there's loads. Colorado, Arizona, Texas A&M.
Everyone's getting
Yeah,
out there and getting some football done.
Oregon
The
State.
spring games are always fun, though. You always hear about these. I remember last year there was a couple of spring games that happened, and then suddenly it was like, oh, somebody been advised to enter the transfer portal, and you're like, you didn't
Yeah,
have a very good spring game, did you? Obviously, the coach has gone, yeah, there's the portal, off you go, John. Someone else needs you. Your
that
skill set is not going to fit us.
or one of the up and coming players for say an Akron has had a really good spring game, and then they've been
The
advised to
mighty
enter the
Akron Zips,
transfer
shall we?
portal. Exactly. They've been advised to enter the transfer portal because there's an NIL deal with a Power Five school just waiting for them.
Yeah.
So it works on two ways, and obviously there are quite a few schools who aren't doing spring games this year. I know Nebraska have been quite open about the fact that they're not doing them anymore. Texas aren't doing one. Yeah, there are quite a few schools that aren't because of next week the transfer portal opening and players being taken.
Hmm.
Um, but it is nice to see that quite a few schools, lots and lots of schools are still doing theirs. It's, by the sounds of it, it's a great day out for cheap tickets, family event, always lovely to see. Um, will you, because I know I'm going to have it here, I know it's not going to be top priority for you this weekend, Nick. But it's on
That's
Peacock.
quite, that's quite
It's,
You're
yes,
assuming that Nick's got other priorities. I mean, you're being quite.
honestly, on a Saturday night. So Nick, will you be watching Notre Dame's practice game, spring game at 7 p.m. on Saturday? Um, while we stop pretending that you have better plans than that on a Saturday.
um, if I can remember that it's on, and if I can find it, then I might watch it. But I might well be in bed because Saturday night rock and roll lifestyle that I lead that's late
That's
for me. You know,
well late for you on a Saturday. You
yeah,
can't be expecting
you
that.
know,
Plus, as you say,
especially
finding a stream or finding a way of covering it from this side of the pond is probably going to be pretty tricky for a spring game.
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, if you're on YouTube or that you could probably find in the non-legitimate,
Other ways of watching are available.
yeah, there are alternative options available, but I mean, like, I'm looking forward to hopefully trying to give Michigan a go this year, just because I want to see Bryce Underwood. It is primarily for me. I just want to see him play, see how he gets in, but. That's about it. I guess the only other thing that I think I need to mention is as part of our we're not expanding into other college sports, but we do mention other college sports. And as we mentioned a few weeks ago, it's been March Madness. March Madness finished on Monday night with the men's tournament with Florida beating Houston. Is it 68-65, I believe?
Go Gators.
Um, so that Florida are now the national champions in the basketball. with that, we did a Pick'ems tournament, March Madness tournament, and would like to congratulate Ballers Meg on winning our first ever March Madness bracket. Impressive feat, first time player. So, absolute shout out to you. Congratulations. And you've won a hearty round of applause on this podcast. I hope it was worth it.
Is that it? Is that all she wins?
That's. I
That's all she wrote.
went on our Instagram story and all that as well. So,
Yeah, okay, there you go.
I think we're being too generous now with
You're giving
these
away
kind of
too much
prizes.
now. Instagram stories and everything. Woo, watch out now.
If I can remember to post on Facebook, I might even do that as well. But I think, like you said earlier in this episode, Gary, there's only one thing to talk about right now, and that is the NFL draft, which, as Nick has already mentioned, is 2 weeks away as of the day of release of this episode. Very exciting time for so many of the prospects that we've watched all year round, and for the last couple of years, so many. I don't know. Well, we mentioned that few of us have been watching for a few years, but I've only been properly watching for the last 2, maybe 3 years. So it feels like a lot of these prospects now are the ones that were freshmen or they were in the sophomore year as I kind of as I was really getting into the college side of football. So it's the turnover obviously every 3, 4 years is one thing, but it just feels like there's a lot of now the full turnover
Yeah,
is a thing.
it's always nice as a fan when you've had a chance to watch the progression of a group of a recruits or a pack that have
Yeah.
come through, and you've watched them for a couple of years, and you go, "Oh, I remember watching that guy 2 years ago, and he looked good for that game that I caught and stuff like that." As
Yeah.
we've mentioned before, sometimes in the UK, finding games is somewhat hit and miss, and so when you see one and you go, and I remember that guy played for some team, and he looked really good in that one game that I managed to catch. So it's nice to suddenly go, I remember that name. He's now going to the draft.
Yeah.
It's what I think adds a layer of, not, I wouldn't say complexity, but it adds a layer of fandom to watching college football, to that say that turnover that comes through, but then you watch the progression and then you see them in the NFL, because we all watch NFL as well,
Yeah.
obviously. So
yeah, and obviously you don't get it in the NFL nearly as much. With players' careers being able to take upwards of, well, as many years as they have to. A college career is so much shorter, so you get to watch multiple iterations of the same team, whereas it was only the last couple of years. I think the last Lions player left from when I first started watching the Lions had left the team. So these things kind of take a lot longer to go through. But with the draft in mind, I think the number one place to start is the number one pick. That just kind of goes without saying. And I'm particularly interested, I guess, Gary, mostly to hear your thoughts. I'm sorry, Nick. But Nick and I have had so many opportunities. We've spoken about this so much. I've not heard your thoughts since, well, midway through the season. And a lot has changed since then. It seemed like, Shedeur Sanders was the clear betting favourite to go number one overall. Congratulations to anyone who's pissed money away on that one. That was clever.
Yeah, but you can't get that back now. That's
But at the moment, it looks like a mix of either Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, or Travis Hunter are going first overall. Travis Hunter may be in the little bit in the back of those two, of the other two, but it's mostly Cam Ward and Abdul Carter. How are we feeling, guys, about, first off, just who's going first overall? Do you think it is actually a given, whoever you think is going to go first as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
think it always is in the draft, right? It's never, the draft is never the best player goes first. Because there's always, in the draft, the team that's picking first, usually, and this is why they pick first, have been pretty rubbish the year before, and usually need a reboot, signal caller, face of the franchise. And inevitably that tends to be a QB. Now, historically, and in some years there have been, the best player has been a QB, and therefore they've been picked number one. Majority of the time, the best player in the draft isn't necessarily a QB, but the number one pick will always inevitably be a QB. And I think it's consensus, there are a few QBs coming out in this draft, but the consensus best option, I think, is the one that I'm assuming we all agree on.
I think to win your last game when it doesn't matter, and to cost yourself the first overall pick is mind-blowingly stupid. And I think whatever kind of idiot decides to do that should be shot. I have no sympathy. I cannot believe that they did that. I don't care whether, it looked better on the thing. Bunch of idiots cost themselves the first round pick and instead picked 12th. But I digress. Cam Ward is
No,
going.
no,
Cam
please get on
Ward
the
is
box and
going.
keep banging that
Oh
drum.
no. Cam Ward is going number one. I would happily bet my entire mortgage that I owe the NatWest Bank. I would happily bet that Cam Ward is going number one.
Cam Ward is walking out there with a Tennessee Titans #1 draft cap.
Correct. Tennessee Titans have taken numerous calls from other teams trying to get up to number one, but they've decided that they can't make a deal with any of them. They have cancelled their private workout with Shedeur Sanders. They have been uninterested in anything other than signing Cam Ward. They didn't sign a free agent or anything like that at QB. Cam Ward is going Tennessee Titans number one.
It sounds like he's walking
Draft
straight
starts
into
at
the
number
starting
2.
job.
Now, you can take this as a serious question or not. Are you not sure that they're throwing all smoke and mirrors and actually they're just so in love with Will Levis still?
They're in love with Will Levis about as much as we're all in love with putting mayonnaise in our coffee, like he does.
Nice
Well, there
link.
we go.
Lovely, lovely,
smoke and
beautiful.
mirrors.
That's why you're the mainstay of this program, Nick. There it is. That's it right there.
Thank you.
That's it right there. I mean, no.
Well, there we have it. That's Abdul Carter going number one then.
Abdul Carter #1 to the Tennessee Titans, yeah. And yes,
I will not be
to
judged for that
reiterate,
action.
I think Abdul Carter is the best player available in the draft by a country mile. He is going to
Travis
wreck.
Hunter is the best player in the draft. Out.
I tend to disagree with that.
Well, yeah, I guess it depends what you're after. In terms of, I think there are very much arguments that can be made for both. But if that's the case, then it looks like, well, okay, we'll call it as Cam Ward going number one overall, because apparently we'll all pretend that mayo in your coffee is not very nice and no one likes Will Levis. We'll do that just for this podcast.
Just for this, not for any other reason other than he's absolutely rubbish at playing QB, or that nobody else thinks he's any good.
No, because honestly, the money you make as the Tennessee Titans from the memes alone should be
enough.
Keeping Will Levis in, he's lining pockets.
I mean, he's never going to be short of a bottle of mayonnaise, is he? Let's be honest.
No. And that's all that matters in life. That's all we've all ever strived for.
I mean, it's all the point. He's ahead of the game when it comes to NIL. He is Mr. Hellman's forever, right? So
I mean, watching him last year on the telly as the round went through pick by pick, and he wasn't getting picked, and you just watched it. His face got worse and worse and worse, and no one could say anything to make the situation better. It was just like, how far is this guy going to drop? And obviously, he dropped right out the first round. I noticed the NFL have gone and done it again. They've invited Jalen Milroe to Green Bay. He will be there on opening night in the green room. And I don't think Jalen Milroe is going to get
He's
picked
not a first
either.
round pick. He should not be a first round pick.
But they've invited him and he'll be there on night one. So it'll be another Will Levis moment where you're going to see Jalen Milroe in the green room waiting to get picked, and he won't get picked.
He won't get picked, and his dreams will be crushed. And
it's
good
not
TV,
exactly the same. It's not exactly the same, but we've had a few iterations of that over the years. I mean, you look at the Aaron Rodgers draft, and Aaron Rodgers, who was so convinced that not only was he going early, but he knew where he was going. He was going to the 49ers, going home. And then he falls all the way to the end of the first round, and
23, I think he fell to, didn't
23 or 24.
Yeah. But I think that's quite an interesting point you make, because I know we're going to get into this in a second, But I think Shedeur Sanders is this year's Rodgers. I think he's going to drop. Me
Well,
personally, I think he's going to drop to
if
Pittsburgh
he
at
doesn't go at
21.
three, if he doesn't go at three, he's going to fall down to the end of the bottom half of the first.
Yeah, I think 21 at Pittsburgh could be very interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And when I was going to say he's both a huge favourite. Take that thought. Hold it.
Yeah.
Just hold it. Hold it for us.
Right.
So I just want to finish up with the Will Levis one. It was the thing that got me with Will Levis, and this is one of the first few times I think I've ever been fooled by Vegas. So we'll go back to that draft, and we'll all remember that draft as the Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and then Texans jumping right back up again and taking Will Anderson Jr. That fourth pick of the draft that ended up being Anthony Richardson. If you remember the day of the draft, we all knew Bryce Young was going first, and we all knew that CJ Stroud was going next. We didn't know who was going to pick third, who was going to go with the third pick, because the Cardinals had the pick, so we didn't know what the Cardinals were going to do. No one was expecting the Texans to double dip in the top three,
Yeah.
but the bet was for QBs who was going to be third overall, and was Will Levis going to go in the top five, or was he going to fall just out? And on the morning of the draft and throughout the day, Will Levis, his stock rocketed. No one knows why. I don't know if there was a rumor that just went round, if there was a team that had said we're really genuinely stuck, but it was the Colts who said, look, we are genuinely stuck on Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. We can't choose between the two. And right now, this very second, we'd edge towards Will Levis if something like that got out. But Will Levis was everything from, I think it was about, if I can remember, it was like 3 to 7 to go third QB out the gate and go top five.
Yeah.
His whole stock was rocketing. And then on the day,
Just
pick came after pick after pick, and Will Levis never got mentioned. And no one will ever forget all the memes that we've had of him already. That draft night was the number one of his girlfriend sat next to him, looking and seeing which ones of the guys who were actually walking out on stage were single. Maybe
which ones are going to get the big signing bonus compared to the one that she? Yep.
Yeah. So all that was kind of happening on the same day. It was all happening for him. So anyway, right. Have you still got hold of that thought on Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah.
Right. Okay,
Yeah, it's covered in mayonnaise right now, but yeah, we're still somehow
Oh.
managing to hold on to it.
Well, if you were holding it
Yeah,
in
I
your
hope it's
hand and your hands
mayonnaise.
are off
Oh,
screen, I don't want to.
yeah.
Yes, I was allowed. I didn't drop one earlier. I was too
Moving
nice.
on. Moving on.
So Cleveland picked second. Now Cleveland
Yeah.
are desperately in need for a quarterback right now. They lost. Well, the Deshaun
Cleveland
Watson,
can't afford a quarterback right now.
which would theoretically place this year to be the perfect year to get one, because they can have the quarterback on a rookie contract. And even if it's a first round quarterback, that first year of the rookie contract is normally the lowest in terms of what you're paying out financially.
Yeah.
Do Cleveland, and this is what I'm going to ask the question anyway, even though you technically answered it. Do Cleveland take the shot on Shedeur Sanders needing a quarterback? Or they've got, I believe it's Kenny Pickett in the building now, and Deshaun Watson. And do they say, well, not Deshaun Watson, but Kenny Pickett, just take us to whatever QB we can get next year and take either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter off the board then?
I think, spitballing here, for ages it was Abdul Carter to the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was mocking Carter. It was going to be because there was all this, was Garrett going to leave?
Yeah.
You know,
I think the Miles Garrett potentially asking for a trade.
He signed a big deal, and ever since he signed a big deal, the Carter going to Cleveland has come down, and the Hunter's gone up.
Mm-hmm.
Now they are in dire need of both a cornerback and a wide receiver. So to take Hunter would solve half of, not quite two positions, but one and a half maybe. So I think I expect the Browns to take a QB, but I don't expect them to do it at number 2. I expect them to take somebody like
Leonard.
Jackson Dart or
Mm,
Jalen Milrow or Kyle McCord or one of those sort of
yeah.
second level QBs at the beginning of the second round on the Friday night. I do not expect them to spend number 2 on a QB.
Do they trade out, you think?
No, I think they'll take Travis Hunter. I think the Browns will take Travis Hunter. Something that got thrown over to me only yesterday was the possibility of the Browns trading for Kirk Cousins because he would only cost you 10 million because obviously
Bet
the rest of
minimum,
the money's
isn't he?
been paid from
Paid by
by Atlanta.
Atlanta.
So if you could get a deal done, you might be able to get Kirk Cousins in the building for 1 year for 10 million. Now, you know, that would ease the pressure on both Kenny Pickett and your new QB that you've just drafted at number 2. Or
Mm,
sorry, that you've drafted as your number 2
yeah,
pick in the second round.
that's true.
Um, that's
What about,
something
wouldn't
that
Russell
can.
Wilson be still knocking around on a?
He's at the Giants. He's signed for the
He's
Giants.
gone to the Giants, of course he has. Yeah, I thought he was another one that you could have picked up on a vet minimum because Denver is still paying him through the nose.
Without getting ahead of ourselves, that's another reason why I don't think the Giants are going to take a QB at 3 because they've
Yeah.
just signed
Oi!
2.
Mm,
But I think the Browns are going to go Hunter at 2 personally, and I
Yeah.
think their QB comes in the second round.
interesting. See, I can't help myself but think this is draft day come to life, and it's Abdul Carter, no matter what, for the Browns, in a Vontae Mack special type thing. Um, I think it. I can see your logic though. Yeah, Hunter does fit a desperate hole that the Browns have got,
Yeah.
and with Garrett staying, they don't so desperately need Abdul Carter, but Garrett and Carter as bookends on a defensive line would absolutely terrify any offensive coordinator, I should
Yeah.
imagine.
Um, I mean, well, the Browns fans that I know and have spoken to are all just say like, they're saying if you can get Abdul Carter, whatever that situation looks like, take Abdul Carter. And we've kind of seen some of the jokes kind of put forward about it though. It's like you have someone like a Miles Garrett and put someone like a Abdul Carter opposite him.
Hmm.
You don't need cornerbacks. You don't. Well, obviously you do, but you don't really. That will feed families. That combination on your line will feed families and may murder Lamar Jackson. But these things could happen.
Hmm.
With a line like that. So just from what I'm seeing is Cleveland want that's what Cleveland want. Cleveland want Abdul Carter, and I don't think there's any leaning off that.
The only way I can see them taking Abdul Carter is if they turn Carter into a Michael Parsons.
Yeah.
He plays edge, but he also plays linebacker, and
Yeah.
he'll
And he's got the skill
like
set to be a he's got the skill
yes.
set to do that as well. So
I just think I just the more I look at it, because 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I was all over Abdul Carter for the Browns, but in the last few weeks, the more I've
mm.
been thinking about it, the more I've moved to Travis Hunter going to the Browns.
Yeah. Well, a genuine question, and I'm gonna probably sound really daft when I say this, and I kind of don't care. What makes an edge? What's the difference nowadays between an edge rusher and an outside line or one of these outside linebackers that we're getting it coming into the draft? And like your Michael Parsons type, who are put down as an outside linebacker, who will play edge, and is it just the fact that there were more snaps out of more snaps than regular, they may drop back into a coverage? Is that, but because what I'm seeing at the moment is a lot of the edge rushers coming out or the outside linebackers are essentially the same thing. And the edge rushers, if you ask them to, they can drop back and play on a little bit of coverage, or they do have that skill set. I don't know if it's just how they're bringing them up in college to kind of
I
as
think it's
defenses evolve and defensive lines evolve, these are the packages that you want to put together. So we need to build these prototypes. I don't know.
I think it's to do with attribute strength really, because if you take excuse me, right, okay, I'll use two guys in this year's draft as examples. Let's look at Abdul Carter and let's look at Jalen Walker. Now,
Okay.
watching Jalen Walker at Georgia all year, he played really, really well from that linebacker position. But there were times when he was pushed forwards and wide and played that edge role. And I think he can play the edge role, but he's better in the hanging back a little bit. Whereas I think Abdul Carter is better on that edge, with his frame and his strength, trying to get around rather than sitting back. He can, and I just think it's a skill set more than
Right.
anything. And I think it also is trending to how they're played at that college level.
Yeah. Because I can say it's more just coming from the fact that like before anyone tries to jump down my throat on this one, I know what a linebacker is and I know what an edge rusher is. I'm not jumping down the hole. I don't know what these positions are. But what seems to be happening right now is obviously there are kind of two positions that are molding together in a way that I'm not sure what's actually coming of this and if it and maybe I'm just behind on it. I don't know. But you are actually I'm just seeing this kind of mold of players. You've got your edges, you've got your linebackers, and then there's this mold of now we're calling just outright calling them outside linebackers. That um that,
It's
yeah,
like when you get halfbacks and fullbacks both all being amalgamated into a running back.
Yep.
yeah.
You know,
Um,
in a similar sort of vein, you've got, the same position that does two different things, but they're all being called the same thing.
yeah, fair enough.
So,
Do you know what? That's genuinely by putting it into the halfback, fullback, running back thing. You just like in my head, you've just like seatbelt, click,
and that is why I am here.
This is why. This
and
is why we. This is why we do it.
Sam. This is why I told you no, not until Nick's back. Um,
Uh,
and
Happy
then
birthday, by the way, Sam. I
yes,
know
it was
he's
his
not
birthday
here,
yesterday.
but happy birthday,
Happy
Sam.
birthday, Big Sam.
I meant to text and I completely forgot. So happy birthday, Sam.
I'm gonna say I'm also gonna throw myself out there. I texted Sam at 11 o'clock last night and went, "Oh, I am so sorry I've missed it, but I hope you've had a lovely day." Um,
I've literally got it written on a piece of paper here because I noticed it. Literally, it's at the bottom there. Sam, birthday. Because you
well,
you mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, "Oh, I'll write that down so don't forget." And I did forget. Apologies, Sam. Happy birthday.
so
Carry on.
then we've got the Giants picking at number 3, and as we've already mentioned, now the Giants have taken Russell Wilson and
Excuse
Jameis
me.
Winston and brought back the one and only Tommy DeVito. So that is now a stacked, well, I say stacked, as much as it can be for the Giants. That's a stacked QB room. Three options. The likelihood that they go for a quarterback in the first round has just almost gone from 100% a couple of weeks ago to 0% now. One of either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter will be left on the board, but I would imagine that even if it's not the greatest amount, some phone calls may start coming through with a Travis Hunter or an Abdul Carter left on the board. If you are the Giants, now Nick, you have vested interest specifically in these 3 picks, particularly the 2 after with the where the Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter go. Who takes? Who do the Giants take to see who's left on the board for pick number 4? The Giants, though, I think, I genuinely think the Giants hold a lot of the key to, depending on who they take or
Yeah.
who they leave off the board. If they don't take, even if they don't take one of those 2, it raises such questions at the time that maybe they see something. And if they see something, then maybe the Patriots see it too. And the Jags see it too in a certain player in that player. This has happened before.
It happens before.
Where do the Giants go? And do you would you agree, disagree with me if I'm saying the Giants can hold the key to a couple of these position groups exploding a little bit, and kind of the draft just falling completely the
falling
wrong way.
apart. Yeah, all draft analysts and all draft experts and everything else hinge on what the Giants do at 3, because the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th and the 7th pick are all based around the Giants doing something.
Yeah, I mean, all the mocks that I've done up until this point, are no trades. The
Mhm.
next one that I do will be a trade mock, and the Giants are my first team that I'm considering a trade here because spitballing. If you assume that the Browns take Carter, which is like we said they could do.
Mhm.
If the Browns take Carter, I think the Giants stick exactly where they are. They take Hunter, wide receiver, boom, go. I don't think anything changes. You will see Ward, Carter, Hunter, gone. Top 3. If the Browns take Hunter, this is where I start to wonder whether there's a trade coming
Yeah.
because the Giants don't need Carter. They've got Kayvon Thibodeau. They've just paid. Who's the other
Dexter
guy?
Lawrence.
Is it
Is it
Lawrence?
Dexter Lawrence they've just paid?
Dexter Lawrence from the Cowboys, wasn't it? Who picked up?
They've just paid somebody anyway, so they don't need a third defensive end. So if Carter's on the board, do you do you take Carter and trade Thibodeau, or do you trade the position now? If you're sitting at 3 and Carter's on the board, what is Carter worth?
To
3 number
somebody else.
ones? Yeah,
Yeah.
because you've got the Jags that could come up for Carter. You've got the Panthers that could come up for Carter. I can't see the Saints coming up. They've got too many needs to be selling
Yeah.
picks away.
Yeah, they need.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
see, Patriots wouldn't come up just for
no
one move.
Patriots.
It's just
No, I
Not
think
there.
so. It because I'm quite. That's where my interest is beginning to tweak on the Giants. That if by how I'm beginning to feel that the Browns take Hunter and it's Carter on the board at 3, I wonder whether there's a
somebody's going
trade
shopping
in
there.
play.
Yeah.
Whether that's a trade for Thibodeau and Carter gets selected, or whether that's a trade for the pick. But there's that's a trade that's in the back of my mind at the moment.
Chargers could come in.
Just
Chargers
to
need a
That's a long way to come up, though.
long way to come up, though. It's not really Harbaugh's methodology to make a
just to
splash.
throw it in there as
Mm.
apologies for getting it wrong. It was Chauncey, I believe it was Chauncey Golston we're talking about, who's
Right.
just come over from the Cowboys, Chauncey Golston, because they signed him to a 3-year contract.
Mm.
And this again, this is what I'm saying that where I think the Giants do genuinely hold the keys to how the rest of this, at least the first round, because no matter how crazy a draft gets, every year, no matter what, the non-crazy drafts have players that fall to the 4th, the 5th, the 6th that we never thought. We have players that go in the second round or go towards the end of the first round where everyone's it's a little
Mhm.
bit of a reach there, my friend. But the Giants, a crazy draft tends to be something where the top 20 end up getting rearranged and certain players get taken way before we think that they actually should do and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, again, I think my question kind of goes into the point of just like the Giants hold that key. And you
Mhm.
say if they don't take Abdul Carter, let's just say they don't, because I think sometimes it gets really weird in a draft like this, the trade up value per position or
See
per
what
position in the
Nick's got
draft
behind him there.
may be the value placed on that trade would be lower for the team going up, because if you're going after a defensive player, it just kind of happens. You don't value it the same way as you would be if you're going up to get a quarterback who, you're setting your franchise up
Yeah.
for the future, no matter what, if you're trading up like that. So the Giants really could be in the position of, if they value that position highly and nobody calling values it the way they do, they could be stuck with that pick. They
Yep.
don't go with Abdul Carter and they go with, look, I'll leave you
Tetmac.
to open your put in.
Tetmac.
Yeah, okay.
Tetero and McMillan.
Yep.
Yeah.
The wide receiver. Yeah.
They go
Or did they
with,
go Loveland or Warren?
I don't think either of them are going top five. That the Falcons learned the mistake of taking a tight end so high in the draft. I think that, but you take that top five, so that they don't take Abdul. Again, Abdul Carter's now at 4. Nobody saw this coming.
The Patriots are taking him. The Patriots take him at 4. If he's at 4, the Patriots bite the hand off of the commissioner.
But if Abdul Carter gets taken at 3, are the Patriots taking Tech back?
No.
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 Hope not.
So
No.
see,
The Patriots need defense.
oh, but this is what I'm saying. This is where the whole thing starts to fall a bit different, and where certain players are left. But then the Patriots take Abdul Carter, the Giants take Tetmac, Jacksonville. Just the way that that's going to end up falling is going to be slightly strange, and so someone's going to get taken out. And we always know that, again, when one player, say it's a defensive tackle, then gets taken higher than they need to be, the couple of teams below start to panic. If they need a D tackle, they panic because the person they thought would be available is gone, and they know a couple of people are in their zone, are in their rough area looking for a D tackle. Now they're going to take a jump on someone because they don't know now who's going to be left by the time it gets to them. It's that crazy cycle of how we see drafts go. But as I say, so with the Giants, and then it gets to New England. If, say, Abdul Carter has been taken, or someone's come up and taken him, and the Giants have gone back, where do you think the Patriots are going with this one, Nick?
Hopefully, trading backwards.
Did we say this last year though?
I can't remember what I said last year.
All I
yes, I
remember
did.
is
No.
Yeah.
I think we said last year they should have traded back, but
I know that the Patriots touchback, you lads, I think it was you who was just like, no, trade back at just trade back, get more picks.
Yeah,
And
that
then
was
someone
me.
else was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I think it was Carl who was like, do not move. We pick here and we do not change anything. We pick at number 3. And it was quite interesting to listen to you both kind of go back and forth.
I think
No,
Vrabel
right.
needs the picks. I think I would, if I was the Patriots, Vrabel should sell pick 4 for whatever he can get to, a couple of move back, take a few extras.
It's heart and head thing now, isn't it, for me? I think if you're right, if Carter or Hunter, any of those two are still on the board for whatever reason at 4, then they get taken by the Patriots no matter what.
Yep.
If they're both gone, which I expect them to be, my first choice would be to have the Patriots trade down. The problem is who you're trading down with and what you're selling, because you need a trade partner. So do you say to somebody like the Raiders at 6, well, if you want Tetmac, you have to come to us at 4. If you want Tetmac, you better come and trade with us at 4. But if the Raiders are going to go with Gentry, which I think they will, you're then turning around and saying to somebody like, I don't know,
You think Pete Carroll's going running back that early?
Pete Carroll? Yeah, I think he could go. I think he could go because they need a running back. They haven't got anybody. They need a running back and they need a wide receiver. That's why I think it's either Gentry or Tetmac at 6, depending on what's gone up. I just think now Chicago at 10, they need a running back.
Yes,
So,
they definitely do.
can you imagine? They've just gone and put that massive O line together with their wide receiver talent, and you say to Chicago, right, if you want Gentry, you need to come above the Raiders because the Raiders are going to take Gentry. So why don't you come and trade with us at 4? You've got 2 2s in your, we'll take a 2 off you there. We'll have next year's 2 as well.
Mm-hmm.
We might have 27's 2 as well. I don't know. It depends what you can get. But Maybe getting Chicago to come up from 10 to 4 for Gentry. That's a possibility. Trying to get Raiders up from 6 to 4 for Tech-Mac. A possibility. Like I said, I can't see New Orleans moving. I think they'll just take the best
Whatever's available, best
trench player
available. Yeah.
available. Um, I don't think the Panthers are going to move off Jalen Walker. I think that's set. Um, you know, the Patriots could, in fact, trade twice because they could trade with, say, the Raiders to 6 to
And
say,
then
and then they could
come and
turn
get
around
Tech-Mac.
to, say, San Francisco and say,
Hmm.
well, if you want Membu, you need to beat the Jets, who are next at 7. So why don't you come and trade with us to 6? So that's there is a double trade option there available, but I think for my general consensus is that I want the Patriots to trade down. I don't have a problem with Will Campbell. If someone said to me, "There's no trade on the board, you've got to pick at 4," I would take Will Campbell. I don't have a problem with his arm length. I don't have a problem with him. You look at him from a freshman, he turned up at LSU and smashed it out of the park and protected. Jaden Daniels,
Hmm.
and obviously protected. What's his face? Nesmeyer this last year. So I've got no problem with Will Campbell at 4 if you have to pick at 4, but my choice would be to trade back.
Well, I think again, it goes without. I agree that it goes without saying that if Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter are still on the board, then I would expect by the time the Giants hang up the phone calling in the pick, for them to be like, "Well, sorry, hang on, Vrabel's already on the phone."
Hmm.
Like you run with that card and
Yeah,
you don't let anybody get in your way. You kind of you do that look you do a little jig where you kind of run dancing around the room going, I can't believe that
Can't
actually
believe it's
went
happened.
to
I can't believe
yeah
is that really happened. Has he fallen to us at 4? Yeah.
yeah that you kind of start go buy as many lottery tickets as you can get. You're on it. You're hitting that kind of look. But this is the thing. Like if I'm Vegas though, I'm saying, well, the Patriots, you're not going to take a running back there at number 4.
Mm.
Jags, the Jags have way more problems than a running back right now. Genty will be
yeah.
here at 6 anyway.
Yeah. He's going
I'm,
to
I'm,
fall to
I'm
us. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
if
I'm,
they're trading if they're going with Gentry, they're not going to trade. But it's whether they're going to go with Tech-Mac.
Yeah.
If they want Tech-Mac, might need to come up to 4.
but I also think, and let's one thing I think some of us I think kind of forget is I think you hear things in the NFL community. Like these NFL teams hear things even while those phone calls are happening. They hear things, and even if I don't know the Jags do call New England, I always think it's the daftest thing. If someone's not got, if the if the Patriots are not gonna take whoever the Jags want, but these teams still call up and ask to move up one spot anyway. They'll call and they'll say, "Well, they're after such and such," but they already know who the Jags want, and they can use that leverage going forward on that. Well, listen, Jags are coming up and getting. No, that's who they're after, and they're testing the water to see who. I've seen the draft videos of the war rooms who they get the phone call off a team that's 1 or 2 behind them, going, "What are you thinking? What are you thinking here, mate?" Because while we were chatting a couple of weeks ago at the coaching accelerator thing, what are you thinking? Tell me where your head's at because we need to weigh up our options here. They make those phone calls and they took the GMs talk. We're in a new era of football where GMs are friends now and they all come up through the same. There's a couple of them that come up from the same. They
Yeah.
cut from the same cloth, the Les Snead cloth or the whatever cloth. It's a really weird position to be in, and we're gonna know teams are gonna know what other teams want, and they're gonna be very much prepared to have those things in place. So you can't necessarily pull that smoke over someone's eyes and go, I don't know, Jets. Listen,
Mm.
Jets, the Raiders are coming up for that guy that you want. That's who the Raiders are thinking of, and we can give you that. Probably Patriots probably won't do it for the Jets, but
Yeah.
um, there are those things that are kind of in place at the moment where it's getting a bit harder, I think, as well to kind of play those games for trades.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think the shady, underhanded, whatever you want to call it, they're pulling the wool over people's eyes. It's less likely now because, as you say, there's a lot more communication amongst the front office and stuff like that
I
between
mean,
teams. So I don't think you can sort of go, "Oh, look, the Raiders are definitely getting him," and they're like, "He's not. We talk to the same guys.
you
We know
don't
they're not going for that."
you don't hear it as much either. But I do remember significantly first few drafts I watched being sat there thinking, "These are first year GM, never done any GM job before. They were the scout for a few years, and then they've just done a trade with someone and gone, oh God,
You've been done. You've been
you've been
had.
done
Yeah.
in here. You'll be sacked at the end of the year. You'd be lucky to make it through the season in your job if that's if
Hmm.
this 10-year veteran GM's just pulled the wool over your eyes and got all this off you. I don't think, and I don't think Genty will go top five. I'm calling that
No,
one now. The way the running back position is, and I don't think Genty goes six either. Genuinely,
don't think he goes Raiders. You don't think the
I
Raiders
don't
take him if
think he
he's
goes
sitting there at
Raiders.
6?
I think the Raiders take a chance with chances are Genty will be gone by 12.
Oh, he'd be gone by
So
then. Yeah.
I'm going to say that everything the average draft position I'm seeing Genty around is number 11. I don't think he's going to the 49ers, by the way. I'm not saying he will go at number 11. But
It's
as
not
you
like we
said,
need a running back.
you got the Bears. Would hate for Genty to go to the Bears. That's going to that could be horrible to see. Having to play him twice a year. But other than that, you're going to go to Dallas. One of those teams, I think Genty will end up going. I think maybe the Raiders turn around and say, actually, do you know what? At the start of the second round, do you know what we're going to do? We're going to get an Amarian Hampton. And I think Amarian Hampton or a Quinshon Judkins, and I think Quinshon Judkins is going to rise a bit, and we can take one of those, and we'll be very happy. And I think Pete Carroll can work wonders with someone like that. Um, it's where I think Jacksonville they're going to go corner, and whether
No, no, they're gonna
No.
go. They're gonna go to your Mason Graham.
Yeah, they're taking defensive. They're
They
going
are
defense,
taking Mason Graham.
especially if Hunter's gone off the board. As you say, if Hunter and Carter are off the board, Jacksonville go DT. They're definitely taking.
well,
Jacksonville are going Mason Graham without a doubt. He's the second. He's the second most certain behind Cam Ward going one. Mason Graham is going five.
Yeah.
Set.
Yeah.
Whatever happens before five doesn't matter really because Carter and Hunter will be gone. They are going Graham at five.
If Carter or Hunter somehow are at 5,
Oh yeah, but
all bets are off by then because
yeah, but
everything's
I
just gone
can't see
haywire.
them. Yeah, they're not going to drop that low.
so okay then. If that's the case, then I could see. I don't see I see a cornerback going between 6 by 7 anyway. I'll see Jade Barron gone by 7.
No, not for me.
Mm-mm.
Um,
Too high. No, not him.
with that Jade Barron or Will Campbell, and I'm
You mean
trying
Will
my
Johnson?
hardest not. Yeah, that's it, Will Johnson. And I'm trying my hardest because I've been pulled up on this. Apparently, I'm trying my hardest not to be a homer here, so I'm not trying my hardest not to say Will Johnson.
I've
Um,
got Will Johnson. The last draft that I did, I've got Will Johnson at 16. I've got Barron at 23.
you shut your whore mouth. Will Johnson at 16.
Yeah, going to Arizona. This is I'm like I said, I did this one 2 weeks ago. This is the last one that I did 2 weeks
I
ago.
don't think. I don't think. Hmm, I think there's a trade somewhere that someone will come
Right.
up for. I think someone will come up for Barron.
I am calling this now, and I don't care what you guys are saying. I don't sit right. I'm going to say a couple of these things with a lot of respect. Tyler Warren ain't going that high, and one of the two corners are going in and around where Tyler Warren or Jalen Walker are.
See, the thing with Tyler Warren is if the Jets don't go Tyler Warren, they're going to go Membo. It's either or for me. In the same way that I'm Raiders are either Gentry or Tetmac, Jets are Warren or Membu, and
Hmm.
you know they need both. So it's like, well, tackle, you know, tackle you can get right at the end, right at the beginning of the second, you can still get a decent tackle. Whereas tight end, Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, they're the two best in the class. The quality drops significantly after those two. So you
Yeah,
have to say, to pick at 7, if you need a tight end and you need a tackle, you really want to pick your tight end before you pick your tackle.
yeah.
But if so I wouldn't
But
surprise
then,
me if Tyler Warren does go that high.
I do you think the Jets are all in on Fields though?
I think they are for the time being.
You don't think there's anyone in this that might make them
They might get a quarterback in the, say, third
second,
round,
Yeah,
second or
you know.
third? Yeah. Okay.
I don't see. I'm going to say I can't see them there using particularly high capital on a quarterback. And I've been saying on Hurdle the line, especially as well over the last few weeks, that that end of second, beginning of fourth round for quarterbacks, where I think some of those other ones are going to go. The value you're getting there is about the same with all of them. When it goes from your quick, not even Quinn Users anymore, but say your Jackson Darts to your Will Howards, this is where the value you're going to get is probably the same. They're different prototypes of quarterbacks, but the value is about the same. There's someone that you're planning on not starting right now. You're going to sit them for a year or two and maybe they'll do well. Jackson Dart is really impressing me at the moment. So I think he's someone I would like to see him as someone who makes a bit of a leap in the draft. I loved watching him last year, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing of him coming out of out of the combine and all that kind of stuff. But the only team in that top 10 now I can see, or even in that top 20 before we get to Pittsburgh, that I can see pulling any kind of capital on a quarterback, it'd be the Saints with Shedeur Sanders. After
The
that,
same,
it'd be the Steelers. But I don't. The Saints, I guarantee you, nobody. I mean, Derek Carr's mum isn't sold on Derek Carr anymore. I don't think. And
no,
who else have they
but
got? Spencer Rattler. Come on.
the point I made earlier is still valid. The Saints have so many
So many
holes
problems. Yeah.
across the board that they cannot afford to be spending a pick on a quarterback that you have already just paid. You know, the current Derek Carr is playing for another year. They've already paid
Yeah.
him, so they have so many holes that they need trench help. If it's linebackers, you had Campbell, fine. If it's tackle and Membu's still there, fine. Or if it's Will Campbell, fine. They need so
Jalen Walker would
much.
still be around there as well, wouldn't
Yeah.
he?
Jalen Walker, I've got going at 8 to Panthers, but they need
Hmm.
so much help both on both sides of the ball inside that to waste it on a QB is, again, they're another team. Second round QB, very possibly. Third round
Yeah,
QB, quite certain,
quite
almost
likely. Yeah.
certain. But this first round
First,
pick, not a QB.
and
I'll
I
be
think I think that's probably indicative of the QBs available. I think it's safe
yeah.
to say there are two, and then there's quite a drop to, as you say, there's probably two first round QBs,
And
and
that's
then
why
there's
That's
second and
why I
third.
said about Rodgers earlier. Sanders is this year's Rodgers, this
Yeah,
year's Will Levis. Sanders is dropping quite far because there are teams that don't need a QB. They have too many needs elsewhere to
Yeah.
spend a first round pick on Sanders.
Right.
That's why
who
I think
is
he will drop to
yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, because
Right.
he's not your archetypal, and he's not a first round definite pick.
No,
He's the second best in this draft, but this isn't
it's
the
a poor
best
class.
draft
But
for QBs. So
this is where I was going with it. I'm just saying, if anyone would, just saying, if anyone out of that top 20 would, it'd be the Saints. I don't necessarily think that they do. I'm just saying that nobody else needs a QB as much as say someone like the Saints does at the moment. And then the next one to need a quarterback is the Steelers right now because they're in the position that they are in. But this is where I think it starts to get funny. And I want to put the hypothetical to you that the Saints do take Shedeur Sanders. Just a hypothetical.
Hang on. So the Giants have sold round their third pick and didn't pick Sanders, right? Who did we say the Giants ended up taking, or did they trade out at the third?
Carter or Hunter, whoever's left.
I want to say, like,
Okay, so they're taking Carter and Hunter. Hunter Carter.
in this
Graham.
hypothetical, that I'll give you, doesn't really matter what order. Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, all gone in the top three. No one's traded out. No one's done anything. The top three remains. The next, up until the Saints, well, with the Panthers, everything kind of falls the way it probably should do. Your Mason Graham's are gone. Your Tech Max are gone. A couple others are gone. It's fallen about right. Then all of a sudden, Roger Goodell comes up on stage. And by the way, I wasn't laughing at you a minute ago. I turned around as we were giving shit to the Saints, and Mrs. Fletch looked utterly depressed. And she should be used to it by now. It's fine. But Roger Goodell walks out on stage and says, with the 9th pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, Colorado. What chain reaction does that then set off?
What, in New Orleans or for the rest of the draft?
For the rest of the draft. So I think whether Shedeur Sanders is there or not, it doesn't matter for Chicago, for San Francisco, for Dallas, for Miami. None of those teams, their draft depends on whether Shedeur Sanders is there or not. But who is it who falls out of that 9th pick? Not necessarily by your mock draft, but who in general is it that's fallen out now? And then who is it that Chicago not have an option to wait? There's a top 10 player here do we take this player that's just fallen? Do we not? And then when we get down to Pittsburgh, because overall there may be a couple of teams who panic a little bit, but let's say nothing overly drastically changes then. And we're kind of just talking about the quarterbacks. We get to Pittsburgh. Cam Ward's off the board. Shedeur Sanders is off the board. They desperately need a quarterback. Do they make a call to someone like Atlanta and say, listen, we don't want anyone in this draft right now. We'll give you the we'll give you the money that you need to take Kirk Cousins off your hand? Or do they say, Jackson Dart, you are now a Pittsburgh Steeler?
I think if you're picking, if you're not trading for Cousins, then it's definitely Dart at 21 if Sanders has gone.
Yeah.
Because you have to remember with the Steelers, because of the trades that they've done with Seattle for Metcalf, after 21, the Steelers don't have another pick till
they're not back in the draft until
100.
Yeah,
100
round
fourth
three,
round. They don't have anything.
end of the third.
I don't think they have a third. So 21 is it. 21. You know, I suppose they could trade back, yes. But so if they need a quarterback, it's got to be 21 because Dart won't be there at 100. Neither will half the decent QBs. So if Sanders has gone, then it has to be Dart at 21 because they haven't really got. They've got Rudolph. They've got the red-nosed reindeer at, for a few million. But they haven't even got a back. So whether you're going to trade for Cousins or not, I still think you're taking a QB at 21 because you haven't got a choice. So if Sanders has gone, it's Dart anyway.
You don't think it's Milrow because it's the Steelers and they're so used to drafting shockingly inaccurate QBs?
Milrow's there already. We may as well.
Dart, McCord, Milrow, Shook, and Howard are my top 7.
Okay, interesting.
I want to say, what is the question there? Well, Milrow's there already. May as well let him make his full day of it. That's fine. He's there. It's fine.
Give him something, right? If he's sitting in the green room.
Give him something to do. just give him something to do because those draft rooms look quite boring, to be fair, when you're not getting phone calls.
When you're watching all your mates walk through, yeah, it
And
doesn't
it
look.
starts to get a bit empty towards that part of the night. Like you're the only
Yeah.
couple of people left. And it's interesting though, because like I say, it's the what really gets me is like I say it's the one. Which one changes the way the dominoes fall?
Yeah.
Which is the one? And some of them, and you've got to imagine that. Okay, look, if it cuts down to Pittsburgh, they take Jackson Dart. Nobody else. It could be the kid. Nobody else changes their mind on what they're doing at quarterbacks because everyone else is just going in for a backup or a third stringer. They're going in for the what if, or maybe next year we'll see what they do. That's what's going to happen with a Dylan Gabriel or a Will Howard or
See, the
Jalen
thing,
Milrow, etc. So nothing changes for them, but it's not always what does that pick mean for the rest of them. It's what does the one that they don't pick mean for the rest of them. Does and again just to kind of throw it out there is if Jacksonville's whole, for whatever reason, in another hypothetical, the Titans take Cam Ward, Cleveland take Abdul Carter, and then Travis Hunter so happens to fall to Jacksonville by whatever metric. I don't really care. No one expects Jacksonville to take a corner. Jacksonville switch up because they can't pass up on Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
Just the way that's again going to end up affecting how other teams now have to change how they draft because now certain players are still left on the board and certain players are now gone. It just the way it tends to work. Although you'd like to think that by now most teams with any
Most
decent GM
teams
is like,
know how
no,
the draft works by now, right?
yeah, this is
Do you think
how
do
we're
you think all
drafting.
GMs watch draft day just like the fans do, and then kind of
Yes.
lose their mind a little bit on draft morning and just like I want my picks back, you pancake eating. No.
Well, I think sometimes though it comes down to again an in the moment decision.
Hmm.
If something happens and you just don't expect it, teams now. But again, teams are so I'm not saying they've never been before, but teams are so well prepared
Yeah,
in
I mean,
having a.
looking at Nick's
It's
draft board behind there is, you know, most teams will have something quite a lot more
yeah, and
flexible and technology and whatever else, and they'll have like if this happens, that happens, and they'll have scenarios
the
planned and
Chargers.
they've done all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Just they're the name. I first look at my computer. That's the name I see. The LA Chargers. They're picking at 22. They will have maybe not to the letter, but they will essentially have a draft board of about a million different options of what could happen between 1 and 21.
Yep.
And if any of those specific ones happen, this is exactly who we're going for, and we're ready to punch that ticket in and who
Hmm.
they want.
I think
So
the thing to remember is all those teams picking in the second half of the round are teams that are, for lack of a better word, lack of a better phrase, not crap. They have got their shit together. They need particular positions. They need certain players to fill a gap, but essentially they usually have their QB.
Yeah. They've
That
usually got a star
most
on
of the team
defense.
is together. They've usually got a defensive line, an offensive line in place, and they just need to fill the odd hole here and there. That's what that second half of the draft is. It's this first half of the draft where people are all running around like headless chickens because they need so much because they're not a good team.
Yeah.
And, I don't really think that in an isolated world, I don't really think the first half of the draft tends to affect the second half in that greater detail because you said yourself they've got scenarios and everything. They've probably worked it all out. There's probably like 10, 12 players that they say no matter what happens, they are not falling to us. They're not going to be there. So let's not worry about them.
Let's not
Who else
waste
have we
time.
got?
Let's not
Yeah,
bother evaluating. They're
you
not
know,
going to be on anywhere near us.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's I think one thing to remember when you're talking, with the exception of, say, we've just been talking about Pittsburgh at 21 needing a QB. On that right hand side of the draft board, nobody needs a nobody needs major surgery on their in their team.
No, they need bits. They need positional foils,
Yeah,
or they've lost somebody in free agent, so they need to refill that gap and
Yeah.
stuff, or they just need to
or they're
strengthen in
thinking
certain
ahead.
areas. Yeah,
Or
They're
a
thinking
retirement,
ahead.
or an injury, or something's happened. Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Correct.
But again, this is where I think what is a team strategy as well going into a draft, and every GM has their own strategy. Some GMs are naturally more aggressive, some GMs are naturally more conservative, some GMs draft specific will be more inclined to draft for needs, some will be more inclined to draft for BPA. And I think some of this again, like it'll come with understanding what different GMs' patterns are, and when new GMs are involved, it tends to throw a spanner because we don't know what um what's his name? What is his name? We was talking about him literally on Monday. The guy who's just going from the Chiefs to the Titans, Mike Begonzi. Um, we don't know what Mike Begonzi's attitude is towards a draft and how he's going to be different. We didn't know who um the Jets, who their new GM's going to, what his tactic going to be going into the draft, whether he's going to be conservative or aggressive. We don't know these things, I guess, as well. And learning about, say, just using Detroit as an example, Brad Holmes is aggressive in that first round. He has shown to be aggressive and
Hmm.
very willing to be on the phone with people. You look at last year, you talk about not even bothering to look at players because they're not going to be near you. No one, I didn't, for sure, did not see Terry and Arnold fall into the 20s. And yet there he was. So Brad Holmes goes and makes that phone call because he
Mm.
knows what he wants. Teams know what they want. And some teams, yeah, the Lions maybe compared to other teams have less glaringly obvious holes to fill, but sometimes there are teams again. You go with the talent and what is the
Yeah.
best player that is the best fit for your organization, and then you find them within their role when they arrive, or
Some
like
teams just go best player available as well, because
just
at the second half, as Nick said, the second half, late second half of that first round, those teams are pretty done all right. The
yeah,
Lions, you're picking the Chiefs who were at the Super Bowl, the Bills, those. If they go out and they go, hey, this guy's the best player available in the draft right now, we'll pick him. We'll give him a year, 2 or 3 years, and if he doesn't quite fit our scheme, he's still gonna be a tradable asset.
yeah,
What are you massively losing out on?
yeah, and I say, but you say that again within reason. So
Yeah.
the Bills are not gonna go. Well, Jackson Dart is the best player available, so let's go get a first round
No.
QB. No, you've got
No.
you got MVP Josh Allen in the building. Like
Yeah, yeah.
we're fine with that one. Got within reason, you will have
Within
that
reason.
BPA.
Yes.
But that's where teams. That's where you see the sometimes again you see the reaches. You see a team that says, "Do you know what? We're a little bit like maybe on. We're okay at tight end. We don't need a tight end, but actually, oh, hang on, Coastal Loveland's available. You know, regarding on whether we need one or not, he makes our team better by being there. Let's just go get
Hmm.
him. Let's just get him. Let's take him. He's
Yeah.
there.
And if he's late in the round, and if he is, I don't expect him to be anywhere near 30, 31 or whatever else. A team should, and any team that's looking at saying a tight end will make us better, should draft into that first round for the 5th year option of a
Yeah,
player like that.
yeah.
It makes no sense if you're picking 33, 34 like the Browns or the Giants and whatever else, and there's a player there that will make your team better, that's not going to cost you massive amounts to move up 2 places, and you get the 5th round option on them.
So
Duh.
2 years ago, a friend of mine did this with when the Lions drafted Jameer Gibbs.
Hmm.
So what he did afterwards, because we all had that argument of like, he took a running back at 12 when Bijan Robinson had already, like, Bijan Robinson was the guy. Once Bijan Robinson was gone, no one cared about what was going to come through at the draft. Oh, how wrong we were. I didn't make that argument, by the way. I say we, how wrong they were. Um, but a guy did the maths on it. But the way the running back market was, even 2 years ago, now it's arguably going to it's getting slightly better. But the way the running back market was, actually, it made so much sense to take a running back in the first because of the 5th year option and then the flex, not the flex years, the franchise tags. The way you can get 7-ish years out of a quarterback, out of a running back at decent market value. If they become really, really good, you've got 7-8 years out of them at really good market value without having to lift a
Break the
finger.
bank.
As long as you just take them in the first round because you've got the additional extra years that you can take on from them. It was actually quite wild when we look back at it. That
especially for a position that's becoming, as you say, becoming more important, but is still undervalued and underpaid in the NFL in comparison to other skill positions.
Yeah, and now you've got the hybrid running backs who are more of the hybrid running backs who can catch out the backfield. And you look at teams with resurgences in the running back position. You can use the Ravens and the way they've used Derrick Henry this year and how good Derrick Henry's been. You look at teams like I'll go with the Lions with Gibbs and Montgomery and the way they've utilized the running back position. The amount of players this year who've come out and been great. The Bills and the way they've used James Cook. You look at there are a lot of teams right now who are using running backs very, very well in the way that I don't think it has been for a few years that so many teams are using running backs so well. Christian McCaffrey, I know, has been injured all year, but Christian McCaffrey was, again, the shining example of how running backs are still so valuable in today's game of football. It makes sense that it's a market that's about to rise again on that side of the ball.
Absolutely.
And I think the one other thing, I guess, that I kind of wanted to mention, and I realise that when we talk draft, a lot of it is NFL talk, and this is a college football pod, but obviously we're coming with players from college football.
This is the perfect overlap episode, right? Because this is where the two worlds collide in a weekend
of college football
madness.
Podcast hand over the reins
to the Hurdle the Line
podcast.
Yeah,
go
take care of our babies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to tell Hurdle the Line guys you think of them like that. But the other thing, though, I think.
Well, hang on. You're going to tell the Hurdle the Line guys we even think about them. Right?
Yeah. But I'm trying to figure out a way. By the way, that reminds me, this is ominous, and especially seeing as we're recording right now. I do need to speak to you guys after the episode once we stop recording. So I want to talk just about something real quick. But the other thing I think is really important to mention for those who aren't, again, if you're new to the NFL and new to college football as well, and you've tried to do
where have you been?
A double whammy of getting into both of them at the same time. Number one, fair play to you, my friend. This is a lot to take in at one go. But also, I think the thing to kind of get as well, actually, the NFL teams all have different metrics that they will value. GMs, head coaches, each team runs different styles of play. Team values different things. What their culture is specifically is going to be different to every team, and how they value what goes on within that culture is going to be so different depending on which franchise we're talking about in the NFL. So who that team values at each position, maybe at most times the number one player at that position is going to be the same across the board. For example, in this draft with Cam Ward, if he's not the number one quarterback on the board for every team in the NFL, I'd have doubts on what they're talking about and who's.
They need to sack their scouting department if he's not the consensus number one QB.
If Abdul Carter is not the consensus number one defensive end, there's either something we don't know, drastically that we don't know, or there's something wrong with the GMs in the league and the scouts. But after that, once you get, I guess, maybe the number one player in every position, after that, everything is so subjective. Because it might not be, if we take, I don't know, Jade Barron and Will Johnson, for example, it's going to be, one of them is slightly better in zone, one of them is slightly better in man. So which one do you prefer to run on your defense? Do you prefer zone or man? It might be that one flips his hips faster, whereas one is a bit more physical and strong. So one's faster.
Might be that one's coming back off an injury and one isn't. It's those little nuances that different teams will put emphasis on. Yeah.
A lot of teams now seem to be in the NFL taking a higher risk I say risk, or using higher assets on players
Who have
that
you
come
got?
back
Who
off.
have you got there, Nick? I'm seeing you turning and looking at cornerbacks now.
Johnson at 1, Barron at 2,
Yeah.
Revel at 3, Hairston at
Yeah,
4,
Yeah.
Morrison 5, Amos 6, and then some Florida State guy at 7.
yeah.
Way, we made the top 10 or something.
Um, but again, like I say, so it's just looking at things like that and saying, okay, yeah, coming off an injury, and I say with a lot of teams seem to be spending higher assets now once players coming back from ACL injuries. Why? Because certain teams are investing a certain way in the sports sites and the medical side of it. So they're seeing better results from players coming back off ACL injuries and how they rehab those players. Some teams don't have that, or some teams haven't done that research or haven't had those added extra things placed into the franchise. So they're less likely to take a risk on someone who's had such an injury. And just kind of just to throw it out there is just how these teams value and how these teams set their metrics and what each team values is going to is nuanced, and it changes from not necessarily, well, from player to player, from team to team, from franchise to franchise, from GM to scout to everything.
And I think also what's not taken. Sorry to jump in there, Fletch.
Oh, go for
Mate.
it.
Sometimes the pressure that those GMs are under from fan bases or whatever else sometimes plays a part. I'm
Yes.
thinking the Colts, for example, have been in absolute disarray for the last couple of seasons. They are the GM is seriously under, pressure to get something right. They probably really should go boring offensive line, shore it up, trenches kind of player. But do they, or do they reach for Burden or a wide receiver or something to splashy, flashy sort of pick that will appease the fans as such, but really isn't the good move for the organization in the long term because they like, we need to win now, or I need to make some sort of, you know, decision or some sort of activity that will get these fans off of my back.
Yeah. And again, I think just to add to that as well, it's not just fans.
Mm.
As you mentioned, that's another thing that's different from franchise to franchise. How comfortable is your head coach in his seat? How toasty is that seat? How toasty is your GM seat? How toasty is your offensive quad? How much sway does the offensive coordinator have over that
Mm-hmm.
process? How much sway does the defensive coordinator have over that process? What does your data and analytics say? What do your scouts say? What are those rooms looking like? But more importantly, and we can overstate this for a couple of franchises, and every single person knows it. What does the man signing the check say? What does the man signing those checks have to say?
Yeah, what does he want? Because no matter what the GM, no matter what the head coach says, if the guy signing the check says, I want this.
Well, in the case of Woody Johnson, he asks his kids to go on Madden 24 and tell him who to sign, and that's who they get.
And
I mean,
or
we all saw Hard Knocks and we all saw the Giants making this, they went and asked his kids who they should draft and completely ignored it. The kids know more than anyway, man.
yeah,
Enough said about the
I
Giants,
mean,
the better, really.
no one fell for it when Aaron Rodgers was like, "I have no sway over this team. I have
Yep.
nothing to. I
I
haven't
have no
gone.
sway. I can't influence decisions, but we'll just bring back all my old mates.
Well, yeah.
I didn't give up $30 million to not control what happens.
But
I'm not making these the New York Packers at
yeah,
all.
and I was saying this to Woody Johnson on the phone last night while we had a 3 hour catch up, just chilling and chatting
Yeah.
and talking about
Just
life.
having a
While he
chat
was,
and a catch up and talking about my darkness retreat. I have no sway
yeah,
in. Yeah.
it's not so no one fell for that one when he was on the Pat McAfee show. Like nobody fell for it, and we all kind of just like, when Devontae Adams turns up at the door. Wonder who
Mm.
really, really, really wanted that one. And
Yeah. Yeah.
excellent player, don't get me wrong. Devontae Adams is fantastic, but also like we all
Washed.
know who pulled the strings on that one to get him in.
Yeah.
Um, but this is a thing where, like I say though, the owners are so important we all talk about it when it comes down to the Dallas Cowboys.
Jerry World.
Nobody outside of Jerry Jones and the people who kind of have to say the mouthpieces for Jerry Jones would disagree on the fact that Jerry Jones has way too much sway over that team and how that team is run and how the on-field stuff goes. But you look at last year, the Michael Penix Jr. being drafted and how there was the argument beforehand where they still didn't know who to take. And
That's
Arthur Blank
shocking.
wanted this and Terry Fontenot wanted that, and we've got the guy who's signing the checks who may end up having the ultimate say and just saying, "Oh, by the way, just listen. No, you're not gonna do it, or you are fired, or
Yep.
you better go win the Super Bowl with that because if you've gone against me, so better be the right decision and you better show me how wrong I was." You've got those sort of things, but then I think the final thing is what about when everyone disagrees?
Yeah.
And there
Who has
will
that?
be those moments where they disagree. And in that moment, we can talk about all the plans, we can talk about all the meetings, we can talk about all the things that they've done with these players. And we can say that 9 people out of 10 in that room disagree. But when the other 10% don't, not every team can have everyone be 100% on the right page. I love watching certain teams when all the picks come in and there's been a number of picks and you'd think that maybe there was a question to be had, then the teams just go, "That's our number one guy." Oh yeah, by the way, yeah.
Yeah.
Offensive coordinator, you're fine with it. Defensive coordinator, also fine with it. Head coach, fine with it. Owner, good. Right, I'm
Good.
making the phone call. And
Go out and make it
everyone's
done.
just they hang up the phone, everyone rounds of applause, high fives, claps, hugs. All good. Those situations happen, but we also have those situations where the head coach is saying, "I want this guy," and it's a defensive player. So the defensive coordinator is obviously stood behind him, going, "Hey, come on, man! Like I'm loving this. Go get me my guy." And the offensive coordinator is saying, "I'm going, no, we need that wide receiver though." And then the GM saying, "But my favorite guy right now is the punter." The owner's a bit like, right, everyone kind of do what
I don't care
figure it
what
out
Adrian
between
said.
you.
This guy's going to sell more shirts. I'm buying this
And
guy.
then the senior analyst guy comes in and goes, "But we've just got a phone call from 5 points back, and I think we should take the picks." The thing rests on the guy who makes the phone
Yeah,
call. That's the GM.
that's it. That's it. And the downside is, I don't think that now happens on draft night anywhere near as much as it used to. I think that there are
No,
a much more well-oiled machine now. Lots of those conversations have been thrashed out literally since the season ended. They've been working on this and getting ready. So they're a much better, much more oiled, much better, more professional about it than they used to be. I think, those sorts of sudden decision making in the draft rooms. I think now they also are fully completely aware that they're all on camera all the time in those draft rooms, so they have to be a little bit less um argumentative at times because nobody wants to see that on Hard Knocks YouTube or whatever else. It leaks out when the draft room is actually at each other's throats, screaming and shouting. So I think a lot of that gets ironed out. It's still fun, as you say, though, when that one pick that nobody saw coming comes in and everyone goes, "Whoa, what happens now from picks 12 to 20 because this team have traded up for something they didn't see. The Steelers have somehow sold the house, for example, as we say, they've got 21 and they've kind of gone, sod it, you can have you can have next year's first, next year's second, and the year after the first if we can come up to 10,
yeah,
because we desperately need our QB there. That then shakes the whole tree and everybody goes,
yeah,
"Well, what happens now?" And that's where the panic sets in.
yeah. I'm very aware that Nick has not said much for the last 10 minutes. He's still alive.
Yeah, I'm just
He's still with
listening.
us.
I'm in total agreement. I'm just listening. I haven't you know I'm in total agreement with what's been said.
I just didn't know if
Nick's also loving the fact that he doesn't have to be the main speaking point
yeah,
all the time. He's like, yeah, there's other people to talk about the same sort of stuff. No,
no, but I mean, you say there about being on camera. You remember when Mike Vrabel was at Tennessee and they traded away AJ Brown? His face
mm,
as he got told that they just traded AJ Brown, and it's
yeah,
still to this day you see it and you just think, wow,
well,
you did very well
he
not to
did very
lose
well
your
not to
shit.
completely
yeah,
turn
yeah.
the table over
But
and punch
No, I
somebody there.
realised I was quiet for 10
Uh,
minutes there. I was listening. I was in full agreement, so I just didn't
It's
really
fine.
have
I
anything
can
to
see
add.
you, but I'm never too sure if me and Gary have just bored you to sleep with your eyes open
And
or
he's actually, he is a lorry driver. He knows how to sit there
still
with
with
his
us.
eyes like.
Oh,
And no, you're absolutely right that these things are these things are a lot less than before. The conversations happen. The places where it will tend to happen more than others is where first year head coaches are in there, or first year GMs, or just so happen to be both, because they've not had since November with
Yeah,
their scouting team, like the 49ers have, like the Patriots have. Well, not the Patriots this year, with Mike Vrabel being a new head coach, but Vrabel's at least been a head coach before. He's been part of that cycle. He's aware of that process. But you look at some of the teams with brand new head coaches: the Saints, the Jags, the Bears, the Jets. The Raiders are fine because they've got Pete Carroll again, a consummate professional who's been part of that process for years, knows how it works. Some of those teams with brand new head coaches, they have to not just get in and start getting their staff together,
yeah.
but their staff now has to start almost from scratch putting this draft together for the team that they're part of. And before they do that, they need to go in and analyze the team that they've got. And then there's so much that they've got to do in such a short span of time before the draft. It's a lot.
you look at the Saints. They didn't have their coach or staff in place till almost the end of February.
Exactly. And the same with the Jags, though. The Jags had the problem of they had a head coach, but then he didn't like the GM, so he left. And then with Liam Cohen, so he went back to Tampa. And then the Jags said, nope, the GM, actually, you were right. The GM's a dick, so he's going. So the head coach comes back, and then they've got to go and now start searching for a GM. Certain teams don't like that. They start even later in the process because, and you say they've got some of the things a bit understated about NFL drafts and how that thing works is the teams that do just have that head start and the teams that don't have a new head coach, and we wonder why some of these teams get trapped in that cycle for a little bit of being continuously crap even though they keep getting high picks, is when you keep getting stuck in those positions, it's not a good place to be because you're constantly starting from behind everybody else.
Yeah.
And
And it's why teams are consistently picking at the top end of the draft when they are just poorly managed, badly organized, not settled. You're picking Titans have been in and around here. The Panthers had it for a few seasons. You just end up with a bad team round and round and round you go. And no matter what first round pick and no matter how many times you pick first, you're not getting any better because next season you're in the same positioning.
And two things change those cycles. One of two things that you will get. One is you find, I won't say unicorn because they happen, but you've had two of them happen this year actually. Dave Canales and oh geez, what's his name? Commanders.
Jaden Daniels,
No. Head coach.
head coach or front office?
Head coach. What's his bloody name? Why have I forgot his name? Was it the Cowboys like a year before?
Kings,
Not
no,
Cowboys.
Cliff Kingsbury was the OC, wasn't he?
Why is his name left my head? He
McCart? No, jeez,
not McCarthy.
Garrett? No, it wasn't Garrett. Who the frick was the Commanders' head coach? It wasn't
Why?
Kingsbury, was
No, because he's the
Dan
OC.
Quinn.
Dan
it?
Quinn.
There we go, Dan Quinn.
I know why I forgot it because I'm still suppressing the memory of the wildcard of the divisional round. That's why.
That's why.
Um,
That's why it's not. I'm surprised you could say
that's
them.
why. So it's why I can't remember Kyle Shanahan's name. I just can't remember Kyle Shanahan's name.
Or that wide receiver who caught that ball.
Nope. Do
What?
not remember Debo Samuel's name at
Ladybird?
all. Either.
Ladybird? No,
Um,
anyway,
or
yeah,
Brandon Ayuk.
you get those moments where
Yeah.
a head coach comes in and revitalizes an organization.
Yeah, but I see you get those I'm not going to call them a unicorn, but they're kind of like unicorns in the fact that they come in and they can just make magic happen and they can
Yep.
make it work. But again, you look in both in those situations. Dave Canales was a first-time head coach. Okay, is what it is. BQ already, already been in the league and already had that experience of going into a draft room, prepping for the draft, and get can get set up quicker, can get the ball rolling quicker, and chances are probably knows what he wants a little bit quicker and knows how to get it a little bit quicker. And they had the
And they had a new GM as well. Don't forget that was another thing that the Commanders had.
Yes, but again, you can have those things. If you have someone that's at least not new to it, they can get the ball rolling a bit quicker.
Yeah.
The other one is so you either get the unicorns, or you
get
get
a superstar.
Or, well, the other way to turn that around is you just keep a head coach for a couple of years, even if you are bad.
Yeah.
Even if you are not very good under the head coach, keep the head coach for a couple of years and let them have that opportunity to build up to a couple of drafts. Let them have a year or two to build into it. And maybe you'll see.
Let them have a year or two to let their, what they're trying to coach the team and what they're trying to coach the players get through to them. Because, you got to remember, when head coaches go into these organizations, these players have been coached by their college coaches, they've been coached then by their head coaches in their office and coordinator, whatever, for 3 or 4 years, and they've been taught and coached a specific way, and you come in with a different way of doing it, then it's going to take time for it to give to bed in. And as you say, if you suddenly get 8 games, 9 games as a head coach and you're already on the chopping block, then the players go, okay, what next? And yeah, it's a crazy to turn around. And what you mentioned, Fletch, about how toasty is the head coach's seat. At this point in time, I can't. 28 of those head coach positions are probably not absolutely 100% secure, because the nature of this league in the NFL, I think nobody's secure in their job, even if they're first year, second year, or whatever. Anybody could be sacked. It was proven by the Jets pulling the trigger. What was it, October time, when they got rid of Salah or whatever? There's no right or wrong time, so I don't think anybody can feel that they're comfortable.
Yeah,
but we're digressing off into professional football rather than college now. So
yeah. On that note, I do want to say that it's probably about time to wrap it up. All of a sudden,
has everybody, before we go anywhere, let's
yes.
get this. Where are we?
There you are.
Is everybody aware, and has everybody signed up for, and have you bought your tickets? Because it's happening again this year. College Football Classic in Ireland, in Dublin.
Yep.
We'll be there. Are you coming?
I bought my tickets.
I've bought my tickets.
No, you need to reword that one. You bought our ticket.
Tickets have been purchased.
You've paid me for them.
Of which appropriate reimbursements have been made.
Correct.
But we have our ticket. All of us have our tickets. Mrs. Fletch is gonna be there. We know a couple other people who are making our way over. I'm thinking of something we can do during the day while we're there. Obviously, I think I've already looked some of the plans. If you are going to, it's £15 for an autograph off any of us, £10 for just a photo, £25 package, £20 package deal. Will photograph and we'll sign the photograph, which is
£100 for a pod appearance.
Yeah.
You'll find us basically.
Well, they have to pay us, you mean, or we pay them? Yeah.
We're gonna run an underground cameo type thing going on. So those will all be happening. I should not have said I was charging in front of your face. I weren't planning on giving any of you guys a call.
Yeah, you're charging. It's all going to improve the performance of the podcast, right?
It'll be it'll improve the
reinvested.
Because
we'll be reinvesting all the profits.
I tell you, no, I said the improvement to the performance will be. I will be so happy doing these episodes from the Bahamas. You would not.
Yeah, your background will look a lot better than a grey, miserable Manchester. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, we will be there on the weekend of the College Football Classic. Definitely hope to see you there. If you are coming, let us know in the comments of the YouTube video of this, or let us know on Twitter and our social medias, which the link will be in the bio. Or even better, I think sometimes with it being the off season, with it being long, I think the best thing you should do is find a community of wonderful people. And if you can't find one of those, we will also have you. To do that, go into the bio of the episode. Whether if you're on audio, it's just in the description. If you're on YouTube, it's right there, right below us. And go into the Discord. We have quite a lot. Well, I say we've got a lot going on in the Discord. Lots of channels, various sports, football channels, draft channel, a dedicated draft channel, other sports channels, other live channels, and various other things that we can get going. Come and have a chat with us. We've been having lots of fun in there, and hopefully, long may that continue. Good group of people, all just trying to get through the off season together. Come and talk to us about the College Football Classic as well. I think the plan will be, if we can get a few more people in there who are going, love to potentially discuss the. I don't know what you're planning on doing on the day, Gary. If you're going to do the same as last year and in and out on the day.
Considering how well that went last time.
Well, I know that Mrs. Fletch and I will be there from the Friday to the Sunday. I believe Nick, you'll be there from the Saturday to the Sunday.
Yeah, that's because there's no 11 o'clock flight back to Manchester.
That's what I thought. I can't remember the flights. I can't remember. I looked at the flights. I couldn't remember. I was planning on being there earlier in the week to kind of go and see that band that are playing in Dublin, but
I
that
believe
never
there's
happened
one,
either.
yeah. I'm going to go see that same band, but I'm going to go see them in Manchester now on the 12th of July. If you're there as well, go and see that band on the 12th of July. Look over at the VIP balcony. I'll be over there.
Humble brag.
Just humble, just so humble.
So humble, yeah.
So humble.
Mrs. Fletch in the corner going, shut up.
Yeah. But yeah, just come and talk to us about it. We'd love to see if on the Saturday at least we can
come and find us. We'll be wandering around dressed like idiot.
We'll be near some sports bar, probably.
Most likely.
Having a pint, having a chat, and then we'll hopefully be able to come.
We won't be playing pool this time, but well, sorry, I played pool. You guys didn't, did you?
No.
And on that note, Gary will no longer be joining us for any moment.
Revoke my permissions for joining the pod. Yeah.
Your IP has been banned from Zoom. No, it would be lovely. We can go hopefully see some other people. I want to see what the Pro Football Ireland guys are doing, because obviously we don't want to set up our own thing. We want to go and support what those guys are doing and go see what some of the other guys are doing as well. We'd love to be part of that again this year. And yeah, links in bio basically.
Get your tickets. Come to Dublin.
And I believe there's still tickets left, isn't there? There's quite a few tickets left. Kansas State, Iowa State, Farmageddon. We'd love to see you.
Come along. Sorry for completely hijacking the pod there, but I just suddenly thought we're talking college football. We should probably mention.
No, that was absolutely right for you to do so, and I'm very, very glad that you did, because I would have forgot, and I should not have forgot. But yes, all the links in the bio that you will need to come and talk to us. Come and talk to us on the socials. Come and talk to us in our Discord. And we can start talking about College Football Ireland, which we are very excited about. Next week, we'll be covering, I reckon, a little bit more of the draft. And maybe starting to have a little bit of a look at that spring transfer portal.
It will just open next week, right? So there might be some early movers that we can talk about.
Yeah. We'll have a bit of movement. We'll have some things that are kind of happening at the time. So we'll see what we can do about. But we'll also have just an idea of who wants to go somewhere and who doesn't.
Yep.
So we'll see. Yeah. So we'll see you next week, guys.